Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Astrology and Beyond. I am Tatiana, your host. Today, bringing you back the rest of um, part two of our Lionsgate into solar eclipse video. So, if you have not watched the previous video, I really suggest you watch it because it is really a prelude to this solar eclipse. And even though you might be watching it after the fact, it's really important to understand these energies because they are within a framework of a much larger um, thing that is happening today and that will be in effect for a long time. So this is a very, very transformative time. And so please go watch that video if you haven't watched it. That will be really great. Another thing, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. It really helps grow the channel and help me help you basically when there's more of you sharing this. So if this helps you, please share the information, and all my information is also in the description box below, where you can get readings if you're needing guidance, if you're needing spiritual coaching guidance. I use astrology, I use sound healing, I use different tools to help you move through whatever it is that you're moving through in this lifetime, because this is also my own experience. So I help you through my own experience, and then I love you. So let's dive in to the topic of the part two of this video, which was obviously the Lionsgate into the solar eclipse in Leo. So part two, Lionsgate and solar eclipse in Leo, the awakening heart. We had talked in the previous video, so let me pass all this and move into our, where is the solar eclipse. There it is. Ta-dan-tan-tan. So part two of our solar eclipse in Leo. So as we can see, let's get the technique first so you understand what's happening. We have a big configuration of planets in Leo. The solar eclipse is a new moon close to the nodes, the lunar nodes. Now, this is a south node solar eclipse because the south node is in Leo. It just moved into Leo and Aquarius very, very recently. So this is just a very recent shift that is part of this whole configuration. So we have Mercury, Jupiter, and obviously the conjunction of Sun Moon, which is our new moon or our seeding point, conjunct the south node. So this has a lot of relevance to the themes that we have talked in our previous video, and the themes that are going to be activating through the eclipse. So let's not forget that an eclipse, well, let's just better remember, or if you don't know that during an eclipse, what happens is that the solar function, or the planets that are eclipsed, lose. It's as though they lose their energy, and we tend to see basically the lowest frequency of expression of these planets. Why? So that we can then choose with our consciousness to move through that. Because in seeing the darkness or the shadow or the part that we don't usually see, then we can consciously choose the light or choose the evolution that the eclipses move us through. Because every time we have eclipses is these crisis points where things want to move us forward in evolution, like a spiral. So every eclipse, every time we have eclipse season, we'll be dealing with the themes of the nodes that are in effect. In this case, the north node has just moved into Aquarius and the south node is in Leo. So all of the eclipses we will be having are going to be in Leo and Aquarius for the foreseeable future. And then the themes are going to be, what are we moving towards and leaving behind? So this is why the south node is okay. We've been there, we've done that, we have integrated those experiences. Now the soul or the collective needs new experiences, and this is why the head of the dragon, which is this an insatiable hunger for more, and the tail of the dragon is like, it's the release. This insatiable head is moving towards something it needs to first ingest so that it can digest that experience. And this is Aquarius. We have been moving through Pisces and Virgo. And once we have completed the Pisces and Virgo understandings of what that nodal axis wanted to help us move and evolve these archetypes of Virgo and Pisces through. Now the turn is Aquarius in the North Node, and the eclipse in Leo is going to show most likely all those shadows of Leo, the aggrandizement, the opulence, the kings that are that are out of touch completely with the people or with the heart, and that's all part of that energy. And we have Mercury in opposition with Pluto, so this will be very obviously seen. In Mercury wants to communicate and show and share, and Pluto is showing what? The dirt. It's going to expose more of the dirt of how our society is so dysfunctional at this time because of these disparities between these big figures, the kings, the dictators, or whatever, the presidents, and how disconnected they are from the people. We're back into let them eat cake. No offense to Marie Antoinette, she was also like a little bit of a scapegoat of the whole thing. But hey, this is precisely what's been kind of repeating again in a different way. It's like, how are we still living these societies that have people up there that we idealize, love, and bow down to? Well, there's people literally hungry with no house, with no food, so we're kind of back there. And during this eclipse, the people who have tendencies of wanting to always be the center of attention and be the ones that are in the spotlight, and that might be a little bit the challenge. If you're aware that that's you, temper it with how does your unique light can help the collective. How does your unique gifts help the collective? That's when we can choose to use the energy of this eclipse to evolve ourselves. So let's look into some of the core archetypes of this eclipse so we understand kind of what I've been saying, but in a more precise way. So this eclipse will help us to activate the authentic heart, because Leo rules the heart, and we know Leo is the heart. And when the heart is really truly activated, we are in love, but not the fake love of I love this, I love that, and it's not the desire nature. And this is a little bit what we're going to be dealing with. It's not the desire nature of the heart, the I want out of ego or need or validation or hunger in that sense. This is about activating the heart from what is truly your blueprint. Why are you here for, and why do you love what you love? And you see, loving something, this is why the distinction is different. Desiring something is different from truly loving something. When you love something, there is this kind of excitement that literally lights up the physical heart. And all those neurons in the heart are in coherence with what? With your brain. There's this like it's excitement. And I know I don't know if you know about Bashar and the formula, but one of Bashar's like main points of the formula is follow your highest excitement. And if you don't know who Bashar is, like, just Google it, again, more galactic stuff coming up. So following your highest excitement, and that is going to be more and more and more activated. So if we're not following our highest excitement and we're doing things only for vanity and to be important and give ourselves self-importance, that's the shadow of Leo that will be very obvious. But if you really follow your authentic heart, you're following your highest excitement, which is of service, because usually when you're really excited about it, it has a function that is of a greater service. And even just your energy itself of being in love with something you're passionate about, yes, that's exactly what it is. And Leo is passion. So this is the release of outdated expressions of ego and identity, which is exactly what I've been talking about. If you link your identity to validation and self-importance and aggrandizement, and look at me, I'm up here and you're down there, that's not going to fly very well during this eclipse. There might be moments of crisis where you're going to see that play out in your life. And through the eclipses, things get taken away. And this is also where solar figures like kings and presidents and that are way too overly aggrandized might see a little bit of some humbling happening through what exposure of, I don't know, dirt that comes out or things like that. And that's applicable to anyone who is in positions of prominence, let's say. And conversely, if you have been somebody hiding and hiding and hiding and hiding, this might be the time where you actually begin to be seen more, or healing the wounds of visibility. And this is part of also what I was talking about in my previous video, is healing deeper wounds of the feminine. And the feminine has also deep wounds of visibility, you know, because the witch wound, right? Many wise women that knew how to work with herbs and this and that and see the other realms and share wisdom were prosecuted. So what did they do? They hid, because it was a real thing, you know. And now we're healing the wounds of visibility as well. And I talked about this at some point as well. And it's in the collective field. We're reclaiming creative sovereignty. This is also where we reconnect to our creative power. Like, we all are here to do something. And creative doesn't necessarily mean you need to be an artist creating things. It's what excites you. Some people's creative sovereignty is, or creative fire is, how do you create your day to be a day that you want to live over and over again, because it really reflects who you are and your authentic self, right? So this is also moving from performing love to embodying love. And performing love, again, is that thing that they'll love me if, you know? Whereas embodying love is just being so in love with yourself, and not in the narcissistic way, because this is precisely what this is. The narcissistic way is like, look at me, I am perfect, I love myself, but I can't see anybody else. I can't see anything because I only look at myself. It's only me, and everything is only me. And what about everything else, right? So this is the time where we can leave those narcissistic tendencies. And I'm just exaggerating by using that word, but again, some people might have that. And blessings to all, because there's not a wrong thing in existence. And I want to make that very clear, that even narcissists and kings and all that stuff, they fulfill a function. And the function is precisely maybe to show us that there is better ways that are more expansive to our souls, right? So let's be also gentle, because we might carry all of that too. Actually, we all carry all of that. Let's just be real here. There's no like perfect person. We all have moments of pride and all have moments of self-importance and ego inflation. So let's just face it. We're just moving towards like embodying the love, which is acceptance. I was having this conversation with myself about the difference between liking and loving. And love is a very, it's a word we can throw up like this, oh, I love this, I love that. But what is it really? And I guess it's hard to really know what it is, other than it's an experience. Love is an experience, and it's not like the hormones that are all crazy. Like the universal love is an experience of a true deep connection and full acceptance of all that is. And I know you probably saw another video where I spoke about an experience I had where I was dissolved into the all that is when I was 24 years old, and that was me disappearing. And all that there was just a frequency of love. There was nothing else, not even a witness. So I do have an idea, but that can only be lived. It cannot be conceptualized, and it cannot be explained. But that love is real. That's all I have to say to you. I hope you all experience it, because I had that experience, and I'm wishing that experience on everybody, while still being able to see and having an ego identity. But there is a form, or there is a way of still having an ego identity or an embodiment, meaning a body, a human body, and still embody more of that love, meaning feeling that there is acceptance for all that is. And we don't have to like everything, because liking means being in resonance. So there is a difference between resonating and not resonating. So now, instead of saying, oh, I don't like that, or that's horrible, and judging it, we can say, I am not in resonance, or I am in resonance, but I accept that it exists. This is why, even, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I do accept, or at least acknowledge, that there are horrible things. And okay, that's a judgment. How can I remove that? That there are things. You see, not judging is difficult for every human, but that there are things that might not be the most expansive experience for people, and this is part of our world too. That's our shadow, or the shadow, and I know it's there, and I truly, genuinely don't have like a visceral reaction to any of those things that happen in the world. Like, I truly don't. And people say, like, but how can you like not care about this or that? It's like, well, it's not that I don't care, it's just that I accept that it exists, and then I'm focusing over here in how can I embody more of what I consider to be more expansive to our collective. That's all, you see. So I'm inviting you to that by giving you my own perspective. So you also need to be rewind. So we're also remembering one's unique radiance in service of the collective, and this is part of that invitation too. The radiance that we were talking about with Venus in the previous video is that once the feminine is healed, and once the masculine is healed, and we have these two energies really in balance, and we're grounded, what happens is like you turn on a switch, and this heart begins to radiate. And when we radiate our true self-expression, it's a gift. It's generosity. Leo is about generosity. It's the generosity of the heart that is always of service. It's not sacrificial. It's just in service because you are. And everybody, without exception, came with a heart and a specific blueprint and something that ticks them off and something that excites them. It's just that obviously our world is not designed to help that happen, and that is what we take this into our own hands. So the collective invitation is to heal the misuse of power, because this is part of it, right? The king can be a very generous, you see, it's like power is an issue because Pluto there is telling us how have we used our power and our influence and our solar effect on others. It can be used to burn, the sun can burn, or it can shine, you see. And the use of power is something that we're going to see how many people are really misusing power. We have given them power, we put them up there, and they're destroying or not working for the greater good. And that's going to be put in evidence at a collective level. It's going to be so obvious in media, and it circulates. And then there is obviously some level of, I would call, awakening or disillusionment. With Neptune, we tend to think of this as a disillusionment when like the real masks fall, like the Wizard of Oz. You move the curtain and oh, that was that. It's like the Wizard of Oz, right? This is also a time to lead from the heart rather than the personality. And this is a tricky one, because how do we make the difference between personality and heart, embodied soul and personality? Well, the personality is what we have constructed, the layers we have built through our experience in this life, through what we saw in growing up, our parents, our schools, our traditions, and that shapes the personality or the persona, and that is what most people identify with, including me and everybody. I mean, I have a personality. The difference or distinction is to begin to make a little bit of a distance between acknowledging that that personality still exists, that there are patterns of behavior that were conditioned, and that they're okay too, that there's nothing wrong with them. But as we move further in this distance, now we can have a little bit more of an integration of where the soul comes, when we are just in the moment, where reactions are no longer reactions, are just responses to the present moment, because in the present moment the soul knows exactly what it needs by tuning into that excitement field. And then the personality doesn't need to do anything other than be at the service of what that present moment is wanting. And that's very tricky. I know it's hard. I'm getting there. But we all have personalities. But this eclipse will invite more of us to move into that space, which is excellent. The old identity burn away. So any old identities burn away because it's that identification with the patterns or who we think we are. And also we usually say identify a lot with what I do is what I am, and that's also something that will come to light. No, we do things that feel in alignment with what right now my heart is expressing. You see, that's the difference between, well, I am a ... lawyer, or I am a ... And yes, we can say those things, but that's things we do, and sometimes identities that we have formed based on what we thought the world wanted of us. Whereas the true connection to the heart is really listening to what's alive right now. And guess what? Maybe things we wanted before or thought we wanted to even become as a becoming of a personality are not even there anymore. So the heart starts to really be in tune with the frequencies of the field to know what really, gets our attention, right? And our attention is like a child that's discovering life for the first time. It's just curious. And that's part of what is coming in this eclipse, with the activation also with Uranus in Gemini, like the curiosity and the multi-dimensions just open up to, well, who am I? Well, I don't know, but I don't care, because if I am everything, then I can be everything. And then there's no longer an over-identification with a personality. And this is that axis of Leo and Aquarius. So as you can see here, this is my images that I have revamped. So the Leo stellium, which is the Sun, Moon, Jupiter, Mercury, and the expansion of the heart consciousness. And when we see these two, this is exactly what I've been talking about, moving from this to this, but it's not by completely discarding this. It's by integrating the best qualities of Leo, which is what we're saying. It's the heart, the generosity, and the ability to be oneself authentically. So Jupiter will magnify Leo's gifts, which is exactly what I just said. The Mercury will give the language to the heart. This is where we begin to say, oh, I can speak from my authentic self. And I can speak from truth, because this is who I am. I cannot not be this, whatever this is at this moment. But it might be different tomorrow or the day after. And that's the beauty of Aquarius in the North Node, where there's a multiplicity of dimensions and a multiplicity of possible timelines, existences, and expressions. So there will be also new stories of leadership emerging in our collective. And this is where we lead from who we are, not from our personality. And this is why we might see a lot of things that feel like, that doesn't feel like something I want to follow. I want to follow my heart. And this is a time to do that. Otherwise, this could feel a very difficult time through this eclipse. There is increased creativity and visibility, again, for everybody. And that's the thing, though, if you have been opaquing everybody with too muchness, and not caring, this is where things begin to balance out. Those who were kind of, I have nothing to offer, I don't have a light, begin to shine. And those who were like, oh, that's too bright, begin to dim, not to completely remove their light, just to balance out that light, so we can all be stars in our own right, like this Aquarius. You see, no one here is standing out, but everybody is unique in this image. Everybody is just unique in their own expression. There will be some level of collective optimism and inspiration, and that comes from that little triangle that I was talking about, and the basket, the Barbeau's basket. If you haven't watched that previous video, I talk a little bit about it, and how as these transpersonal planets make these contacts, there is such an awakening and optimism for a future that definitely is possible and better. It doesn't have to be the dystopian future or the dystopian timeline. There will be maybe more openings where we can choose literally what reality we are living in, even though we're still in the same planet. And this is the multi-dimensional living that is beginning to be opened up. And there's going to be so much of this happening and more people awakening to understanding that we are more than just here in this particular place where we are, but that we have also connections to the other side. And what's the other side? It's just other dimensional fields, and they are opening as we open our centers, but we don't have to do anything. They just do. They just open. And I shared a very deep story in the past video on how as we release old identities and old cellular memories, things begin to open up and we begin to connect to other dimensions. I have been already beginning to connect to that. And this is the process. And this is why Chiron square Pluto, and this is something really important because this is the process I just talked about in the previous video. This is where the collecting wound meets the collective transformation, but that can only happen inside of you, inside of your own cells. It doesn't happen by trying to push some movement out. Yes, we can keep doing rah, 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 let's power for change, power to the people, let's uprisings, but in reality, just what are we doing? We keep just switching the power. Here, the real power comes with understanding how to heal. So, as a collective, and remember, we are all a cell of the collective, like our cells are part of our body. So, if we can do that, we're already helping. So, you don't need to be out there just rah, rah, rah necessarily, unless you feel like it. But this experience I shared with you in the previous video is exactly what I'm talking about. The ancient survival patterns will surface. And if you haven't watched that video, go watch it. Otherwise, it's just I had a very deep experience. I've had many of these. Many. It's not like the first one. But the particular one I had during these days of activation of the Chiron, Pluto, and Venus are really bringing in me this embodiment of consciousness, a deep transformation, and is really bringing this up to the surface. So the power wounds become visible. So anything that has disempowered us and kept us small, enslaved, this is going to be obvious, not only because we'll feel disempowered or things will happen where we lose things that were valuable to us, or where we are subject to other people's ideas or of how we should live our lives and things like that. So whenever there's disempowerment or power imbalances, this will be very obvious during this eclipse. And my recommendation is to not project it outside, but to look within where that hurt initiated. And it could have been in lifetimes past, like the experience I shared. So trauma asks for integration rather than suppression. So this is key. This is why I share that experience, because this is not about I have a lot of fear and I just have fear, and then we stay in the victim. Now, there's nothing wrong with what we call the victim. There's nothing wrong with it. That's just a stage. Victimhood is a stage, but at some point we need to leave that stage. Otherwise, we don't evolve. That's just what it is. But you can choose to stay in the stage of victim. That's also part of the choice, and there's nothing wrong with it. But it's easy to recognize, because the victim, and this was me 2 days ago when my car got crashed, and I was like, and how am I going to do this? And I don't have this and all. But, very quickly the victim goes, okay, what's the victim showing me? Okay, a pattern. And then, where's that pattern? It originated. The cells will speak, they open up, but then we need to see it. And then the regeneration happens through the healing process. So this is an image that actually ChatGPT made, which I thought was pretty cool. You see, like the cellular memory is all of these trauma, memories, soul, darkness, fear, grief, abandonment, shame, betrayal, unworthiness. And all of this is stored in the cell and the tissues. I feel that this is a very accurate, let's say, depiction, if we wanted to put it in a certain way. Now, what happens is this is beautiful because this is how we contribute to the collective, and this is why the North Node in Aquarius is not just about creating connections and communities. It's about understanding that anything we do impacts the collective because we're all connected through a web of the quantum field. So when we move through the emotions with awareness, compassion, and willingness, this is when we heal. And the compassion, which is brought by Neptune and is being activated, is when we have someone next to us also holding space for us. And then when we ourselves can hold space for our own suffering, moving from the victim to the compassion, it's not so hard. It's just making that choice. It's not making wrong what you're feeling. It's going, I see it has an origin and I can love this too. Then the transformation happens because what once was pain becomes wisdom, power, and medicine. We reclaim our wholeness, and this is when we transform. And then the collective, we heal together. Oh, what happened? Move, boop. Oh, I lost my slide. Where did it go? Okay, here it is. We heal together. Our healing ripples outward and becomes a force for the whole. Yes, indeed, it becomes a force for the whole, because it goes beyond this earth. It goes beyond just humanity. It connects us to other realms as well. The interconnected collective healing. As one of us heals, we all heal. This is how we evolve together, and this is how we love together. So you see, it's almost like it's an internal journey, all the while being with others. So this Chiron-Pluto aspect Chiron square aspect might bring painful things to the surface. So either by projection, because something happens to you, like what happened to me that activated this through an outside occurrence. In my case, my car being total and all this stuff. But it could also happen inside of you as well. It could be an internal crisis. So either way, the way to look at this is to really, really understand this motion. So this eclipse has many other things, which is like the Venus in Libra, which is the peacemaker, the artist, the priestess, the relationship, the harmony keeper, Libra. Wait, where is my... Sorry, I wanted to show the chart. Yeah, Venus, I was going through this. Now, Venus in Libra, like I said, Venus in Libra is the artist, the one that has beauty, the one's relationship to be harmonious, because Venus, and we discussed Venus in the previous video, is in this opposition to Neptune. There might be these confusions, where we have to start removing the illusion of love towards seeing how we can truly love ourselves so that we can really love others and remove illusions. This is where we can have fantasies, and love is a fantasy. No, love is just something that is, and we all have it. So there's no such thing as, why have I not found my perfect match? No, if we go inside and we find this, then the perfect match finds you. And this is special for people that have been feeling like, I'm alone, I don't have a partner, this and that. This is a time where it's good practice to really love yourself more, because there's always the right timing for the things that appear in your reality. And the more you love yourself, the more some loving experience will come to you. And it can be in a partnership, or it can be in just relationships in general, where we find harmonious bonds. So I think at this time there's both the shadow aspect, is that we might be also idealizing people or things outside ourselves that might not be right for us. That could be one thing. or that the people pleasing aspects come up to the surface to be healed, so we can see where we have given our power away. So that's from the Venus Chiron. We have already discussed this. So now what happens during the solar eclipse is that now Venus is in this exact trine to Uranus, and then in trine to Pluto, and this grand trine just opens up beautifully to allow that feminine grace, that feminine compassion, harmonious relationships, different ways of relating to others, where there's more freedom. So freedom in relationships, meaning instead of like enslaved, like your mind, jealousy, possessiveness, all of that, now we have the capacity to transform our relationships into something exciting. This is where excitement comes, when new people come into your life, where there's exciting things, exciting connections, things that move us forward. So expect the unexpected. Even people in your life, people might just come in your life as we break through. But this is why the Chiron aspects need to be healed first, because when we're not authentic and we don't speak, and we can't heal also our authentic voice, which is also Chiron in square to Mercury, the voice, who we are, what we need to speak from the heart, but to speak with assertion. And this is what we're healing. This is what I am healing. I'm not saying it's all done, but I'm saying I am really aware of it and how it shows up in my life. So how do you heal your authentic expression? How do you say what you need? How do you love yourself more by not giving into the people pleasing? So that's really important. Is the worthiness, the receiving, it's the body, it's the money and the resources. When all of that, this Chiron in Taurus that we talked about, we can see that all is interconnected, and that it all goes back to you, yourself, and the knowingness that we're all absolutely divine. It all begins to open up and heal and bring opportunities, because this is where opportunities come up. Because we have now this grand kite between Mercury, the voice, Venus, the expression of love, heart, relationship, and harmony, Uranus, freedom, authenticity, being unique. Well, authenticity in the sense like uniqueness or individuation, where we are an individual, and then Pluto, the transformation. So all of this will give us a possibility to begin forming alliances and groupings and relationships that are more based on truth, freedom, and authenticity than maybe previously. It's beautiful energy for creating bonds. So this is like a portal that we're going to be just jumping through. Beautiful. What is really important is to make sure you ask yourself this question: are you keeping the peace because you're afraid of losing love? And this is where the healing comes. Are you valuing another person's comfort more than your own? This is when we give and give and give, the overgiver. Or does beauty hide in pain? And can you receive as much as you give? This is part of healing that Chiron in Taurus. You know, some people give and give and give, but never receive, or don't feel worthy of receiving. Even when you're given, even when you have abundance all around, you still feel like you don't deserve it. And that's a little bit of my case that I shared vulnerably in the past video, where these things are coming up to be healed, because the resources, which is Taurus, are endless. The universe has endless resources. Endless. We might think it's not endless, but in the quantum realm, everything is endless. Yes, there is a reality of the material world that is finite, but that's also what we're learning, is to work both with the endless quantum field and the idea of the finite universe, where this is where these ideas are going to start to open up our minds. Because when we can move into parallel timelines, this is where there's infinite. So in a certain 3D earth, things might be finite because they feel like it's finite. But if you move through dimensions, then you start realizing that there's multiple of the same thing. There can be multiple possibilities of the same thing. So they're in reality infinite. I know this sounds a little bit crazy, but that's kind of the kind of mind that will begin activating. Also because Uranus Mercury is like the genius mind. This is where we can channel, where we are going to maybe contact other let's say frequencies or even beings. And this is where I share another of my experience. I have been in the past few days literally contacting or I don't know if that's the right word, but allowing my body to be a channel for a lot of information, a lot of light language, a lot of healing, even other beings that I know from like the frequency or the way they come through my own body. So now we start becoming more mergy with all these things. And this is why we say, well, what's channeling and all that stuff? Well, that's what it is. And I've been experiencing it. I mean, I experienced that for many, many, many years, but it's just amping up. And now we see channeling is something normal. It's not abnormal. It's just raising your frequency enough and opening the vessel, raising the frequency to allow communication, Mercury, to come through. And this is what has been coming through with what I say. I've been connecting with certain collectives and collective fields in other dimensions. And I know this is kind of awkward for me to share because I tend to keep this a little bit more private, but I think it's important to understand that these collectives are here in the other dimensions, but right now with us, helping us evolve our humanity into something much more beautiful. And this is why when people say that we'll be contacting the ETs and this and that, I don't believe necessarily that they're physically going to manifest on this planet. It's more that we as a collective are going to up level our frequency so much that we'll begin to listen, to hear the communications, and maybe eventually see them within the dimensions that they exist. A little bit like the elementals and the fairies. I don't know, I haven't shared that video where I see all the little orbs in my videos. They appear all the time, but I'll share it sometime so you'll see that yes, it's there. We'll just be contacting it and eventually seeing it. The good news, this is happening. It's happening to me. Why wouldn't it happen to you? And I didn't have this 20 years ago. I think I started with these communications or these things that you could call like mystical. But yeah, when I was around my 20s, that's when it really started. But now in my 40s, this is opening up like really big and new things and different things, and it's moving through. So this is to say that this can also be you and there's nothing to do. This is allowing this to move through. But this portal, this eclipse portal, will be activating that if you do it consciously. Now, remember during the eclipses, because the energy is kind of like whoop, make sure you're not doing any rituals or activations or things on the day of the eclipse. So those are more days to stay calm, because it's like a portal, like a gateway. It's like a dam opening the waters and flooding. If you're like standing there while the floodgates open, you'll be like pfft. So what's important is to allow first the dam, the water to come. Once it comes down, now you can activate to the new reality or the new level of self by integrating what's being left behind through this gateway. Now the next thing we have, so we have the Venus archetype that we have covered this, and then we have Mars. So Mars and Venus have also been in a square, and this is where Mars, which is in Cancer, has just moved in Cancer, seems to be a little bit debilitated, because Mars in Cancer seems to lose its focus or its determination. And with Venus, it's as though there has to be some kind of adjustment between what needs to happen and what we want and desire and it's important and what gives us pleasure and love and harmony. So again, this is like, how do we assert our will and what we need, but without giving up our power. And this is where where the things that we need to do not necessarily are in alignment with what we truly want. And what's important is to allow Mars in Cancer to do what it does best in its highest frequency, which is to surrender to the feelings, because Cancer is really about the waters of feeling. It's not about the thinking, it's about allowing maybe synchronicity, maybe that the action is not to be forced, but it's to be allowed. So let's see more on that. And this is where a lot of the creative potential begins to unite. So the friction, or the creative friction, becomes like this is where you can start creating things, because you have Neptune here. So instead, because we have that T-square between Mars and Neptune and Venus here, the point of tension is, what are we creating? How do we do this? But that tension between the authentic self, the heart, what we're trying to be, where we're trying to focus our energy, which is Mars, and what we believe we need to do so that we're socially accepted, Venus in Libra, to keep the harmony. This is that tension. It's like, how do I do that shitty thing that I know it's what I want to do, but it's going to completely rock the boat for others, That's the tension. But this is where we come up with ideas, and it's good to express this more through art, through movement, through dance. Just express it within yourself, and not necessarily through creating conflict between these two polarities. So this is when we can heal the two polarities. It doesn't have to be all go-getter or all passive, or all completely harmonious and then no action. It can be both. This is where the masculine, you still have to go and do things while still remaining in your own truth and in what you need, and allowing yourself also to rest, relax, and rejuvenate. This is where we balance receptivity with action. And then this is how relationships evolve. And then passion, the passionate connections that can happen between Mars and Venus during this time, this becomes more like conscious. If we use awareness and discernment and feeling, our passion projects could now become more of realistically possible, especially because Saturn in Aries, and I'm not talking much about Saturn because it's not highly activated at this time, but Saturn is wanting to create whole new levels of structures, but that can only happen if our action portion, Mars, is in alignment with our heart and our truth, and it's not here to please others. It's really to move forward with what's important to you, that can also be helping the collective. So this is kind of like the story that it's being told, like we're showing here. So and with Neptune making all these configurations is where we can bring into form everything that wants to be brought into form through your own divine blueprint. So to finish our overall story, this is this one, not this one, sorry. Our overall story for this eclipse, and this is the invitation, and this is where I will leave you so you can meditate, is that the heart awakens. This is the Leo eclipse. The heart awakens. Who am I? What's in me? What's my authentic light? 2, the mind is transformed. This is Mercury, Pluto. What we think and how we use our words and how we think about ourselves. What is being transformed? So we transform our mind and our thinking. The feminine is liberated. This is the beautiful Venus, Uranus, Pluto. The divine feminine energies finally can have some release, so we can start giving much more compassion to our world and to our actions. This is that square of Mars to Venus, is how can we still have compassion while being assertive. 4, old wounds become medicine. This is Chiron. This is the whole process of not sweeping it under the rug. This is where we're all healing, all of us. 5, the masculine learns conscious action. This is beautiful because as the feminine rises, the masculine also realizes that forcing, this is what we've been moving through with Mars in the past few months, is like force doesn't get you anything, you know. It's the collaboration between Mars and Venus, is the collaboration between action and receptivity, is the in-breath and the out-breath. When we integrate that as part of our daily lives and our day and our energy within, this becomes like a great catalyst for new ideas to form, for the new world to be built, for things that projects that we had in our lives for like ever, or thoughts we had, now that we start believing in ourselves through this healing process, where we believe that we do have something valuable to offer the world. Now the action becomes conscious, and this is where Mars, Saturn, and Neptune are kind of bunching together to go, this is possible. Saturn wants to ground it. Saturn wants to bring real new leadership and new structures. Saturn is a structure, and these new leadership structures come from you. And then the leadership evolves into service. This is like the biggest piece of this solar eclipse, because the Leo Aquarius nodal axis, as we saw, is not about not shining your light and being over there in the corner. No, it's about shining your light really brightly while everybody else shines their light, and we all co-create together. If there's one thing to get about this eclipse, is this is where we're moving towards, and if this is fully understood, we'll be good. I mean, good. Like I said, astrology keeps moving and we keep evolving, and we'll keep going up and down, up and down. But at this time, there's this big seed point activation for us to go kaboom. So let's keep the energy in this positivity. And my example of what I have shared with you is the example that anybody can do it. I can do it, you can do it. I connect to things, you can do it. Well, I do things for that. So I do breathe every day. I do breath work and specific breath work patterns. And I'm going deeper and deeper into the exploration of what my own physical body can do. And it's great how it can move, how it can, I observe it. So it's a lot of inner understanding of the body. And these are part of the tools that I can also share with you, and that I'm sharing more and more. This is kind of my mission, my guidance system, going, okay, it's time for you to start sharing all these things you do, because this is helpful for people. So please don't forget, if you are this person that needs help, to look down below in the description links below for readings. Also healing music with Harmonic Butterfly, if you're needing to go into processes where you need to calm anxiety. I do. Harmonic Butterfly is my music project where I bring frequencies that are healing, that are calming, and that it's very awkward for me to self-promote. Usually this is where I'm learning as well, is to just share. And that's why I appreciate so much when you share this with others, and then you let other people know that I exist, so that I can be more of service to you all. And I love you very much. Thank you for being here with me in these 2 very long chunks that I hope are going to help you to move through these times, through these eclipses. And I love you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.